Today I'm joined by Stewart Ahmed, the Managing Director of the company's operations in Trinidad. Stewart, great to have you with us.
Thank you, Rosie, for inviting me.
Can you tell us about the opportunities in Trinidad and what makes the country so special for Columbus?
The company has been in Trinidad through different guises for over 5 years, so we're familiar with Trinidad and they know us. We've built up a reputation in Trinidad through our activities, and we've got a mutual respect between the company and the authorities, whether that's the ministry or Petrotrin. It's a fantastic place for us to be doing business in this world of sub $50 a barrel oil. We can not just survive at that level, but we can actually thrive at $50 a barrel oil. The reason for that is that we have onshore production and we have a low cost base, and everything that we need to produce is available to us in Trinidad. It has a mature service sector. It has a population, and the authorities understand the oil business. So we're finding that it's a great place to build a platform to grow the company.
So what can you say about Columbus's acreage? What engineering and reservoir opportunities do you see?
We've got two levels of acreage. The exploration acreage is very much what we have in mind with respect to the potential for the company to grow substantially. That'll be done on the back of success on the other acreage, which is the producing acreage, mainly in the form of the Goudron field. Now, the Goudron field is an incremental production sharing contract. This is a concession that's been given to us by Petrotrin. They've trusted us to take the field from a very low level of production up to its current rates. That's the whole ethos of the incremental production sharing contract. We've taken the field from 30 barrels a day to over 500 barrels a day, and in one circumstance we actually drilled a well that reached the heights of 1,000 barrels a day. We've proven ourselves to actually be responsible with the assets that Petrotrin have entrusted to us. So the Goudron field has just started to yield its potential. A lot of oil in place and a very, very low recovery factor. And that is what interested me in the Goudron field in the first place.
Given these opportunities in Trinidad, why have others not done this before?
I think the answer to that lies in the context of the previous operators of the Goudron field, which have included major companies like Texaco and Petrotrin. The bulk of the wells that we've inherited were drilled in the 50s and 60s, a time of much lower oil prices, but also at a time when the likes of Texaco had a much greater portfolio with much greater potential, and therefore the focus on the Goudron field was not there. Now that we have the field as our main asset, we can give it that focus, and that focus will allow us to take these ridiculously low recovery factors back up to where they should be, and that's what we're about to do.
Stewart, you've recently outlined a number of programs intended to increase production. What are these and how will they aid production figures?
It is important that you say there's a number of initiatives. In the past, we've actually only been able to pursue one initiative at a time. So from achieving the license, the first thing that we had to do was reactivate the wells, which involved putting new facilities in the field and then cleaning out the old wells, finding them first in the overgrowth, and then reactivating those wells. That was successful. That took us from the 30 barrels a day to well over 300 barrels a day. We then moved on to infill drilling, and there were successes and some setbacks in that infill program. But what that's done is set the foundations for multiple initiatives. So those initiatives are what we are now setting about undertaking. The first of those is pure well optimizations, looking at our existing well base and saying how can we improve its productivity, its production. So we've identified a number of potential opportunities there, from pure pump optimizations to some stimulation programs where we think we can materially increase the productivity of the field in a short order. That's exciting in itself. But the second string to the bow is the water flood potential. It's with the water flood potential that we believe we can take the current recovery factors up to more respectable levels that have been achieved worldwide by water flooding. Why has it never been done before? Because of people's belief that there was a complexity of the field and them not being necessarily successful in offset fields. However, there is a difference in Gudrun. Firstly, it was neglected because of its location. It feels very isolated. And when they tried it in other locations, they tried it in, for example, what was known as the Gromorne and Cruise Reservoir. We've got two reservoirs in the Gudrun field. We've got the Gromorne Cruise Reservoir, but we've also got the shallower Myaro Reservoir, both of which are underdeveloped with respect to recovery factor, both of which we'll turn our attention to for water flooding. But in the case of the shallow Myaro, there is no such reservoir in Trinidad that we're aware of, and there looks like some great potential for water flooding actually working. The reason for that is it's relatively light oil. That's partially a condition for water flood recovery efficiency working for you. Also, it's very shallow, which means that the cost of doing workovers, for example, and instituting a water flood system is relatively inexpensive. It's onshore, and the equipment doesn't need to be high pressured. For example, we'll be dealing with pressures under 1000 psi. But the more exciting aspect of this is that through our existing infill program, we've demonstrated the potential of wells when we bring them online at the pressures that we expect to get up to in water flooding. In the past 3 years, we've drilled wells that have come on at 100 barrels a day, 300 barrels a day, and in one case 1000 barrels a day. By initially concentrating on those wells' potential, then by increasing the pressure back up to those levels which gave us those production rates, we believe that we can begin to grow our production and grow our revenues and meet our incremental production goals.
Stewart, great to talk to you. Thanks for being with us.